Saradava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasorasena Romancha Kampa Sutaranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Sutaranga Bhaja Bande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shingaradhan Mandiramarjanado
Shri Vigrahana Tananitanana Shringaratanama Niramajanado
Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Yukta Sabhaktam Sam Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Harivaksha Sangram
Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha
Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna
Shri Radhika Madhavayarapara Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna
Pratikshanasvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Pratikana Sadhanarupasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Nikunjayo no Rati Kheli Siddhai Yayali Viryukti Rapikshaniya
Nikunjayuna Ratikali Siddhai Jayari Vijo Tirapekchaneya
Tatrati Daksha Rati Vallavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Sakshadaritvena samasa shastre uktastatha bhayate vasarve
Satyadari Dinam Samasta Shashe Uttastata Bhavyata Eva Sadhi
Kinto praborya priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Kintu Prabhoja Piya Tasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadat nagati kutapi
Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasha Prasada Nagati Kutapi
Jayam stuvam stasa yasatri sahadyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Dayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatri Sangha Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Patyatya Deshatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Radha Nilamadava Radha Nilamadava Radhe
Jaya Radha Nilamadava Radha Nilamadava Radhe
Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe
Jaya Radhe
Jai Radhe
Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe
Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra
Jaya Maganata Jaya Baladeva Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra
Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman
Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai
Jaya Gauranita 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 Jaya Gauranita
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol
Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Prabhajagacharya Ashtottara Sarasishimad ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Shiramani Gaura Prajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Datta Patita Pavana His Divine Grace Abhacharabhinna Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patiti Udhar Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhakti Raghunath Ji Bhagopala Bhakti Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Premanama Sankirtane Janaka Prema Purushottam Shri Sachinanda Nishman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahavarana Avatari Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhana Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Juga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihat Ndanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopakupina Radha Kund Syama Kund गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय, श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय, जय शिव श्री राधा नीलमाधव की जय, श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्रधाम की जय, जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय, श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथ धाम की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु भद्रदेवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय, भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना करुण सिंगरे भगवान की जय, गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, बोलो श्री मथुरा रानी की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर परमानंद। All glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada lada da aine. Pralada lada da aine. Hiranyakasipu Baksa. Hiranyakasipu Baksa. Silatangkanaka laye. Jaya Silatangkanaka laye. Ito nishingo parato nishinga. Ito nishingo parato nishinga. Jato jato jami tato nishinga. Bayi nishinga, hrudaye nishinga. Narashinga madhimi sharanam prapade. Tavakara kamala bare nakam adabhuta shinga. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanabringa. Kesavadrita narahari rupa. Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re. Avakara Kamala Bare Nakam Parabhuta Shinga. Dalita Hiranyakasipu tanabringa. Kesavadita narahari rupa. Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re. Kesavadruta narari rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. Jaya Nishingade, Jaya Nishingade, Nishingade, Jaya Nishingade. Jaya Narahari, Jaya Narahari, Narahari, Jaya Narahari. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. जय श्री भक्ति पद सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कनि सिंहरे भगवान की जय। भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। निताय गौरारी प्रेम आनंदे हरि हरि। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवत्ताय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवत्ताय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी शतवत्ताय नमो नमः। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदारी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषे
Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Vilase
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषे
Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Vilase
जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तरवांचा पूर्ण हो
Je Tomara Sharanala Tara Vancha Purna
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी
Tumi Kripa Kari Karatare Vrindavana Vasi
मोरा ये विलास कुंजे दियो वा
Moraiya Vilas Kunje Diyova
नायानी हेरी वो सारा जुगल रूपरासी
Aminayane Vivo Sada Jogalaruparasi
ए निवेदन धर सखीरानो गता करो
Nivedana Sakiranugata Karo
सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
Sevayadi Koro Diye Koro Nijadasi
दीन कृष्ण दास काए नामोरा हो
Dina Krishna Dasiko Eye Namora
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadahina Vasi
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadahina Vasi
नामो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नामो नमः
Tulasi
कृष्ण
Preyasi
प्रेयसी नामो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
Kani kani sapapani brahmahatyari kani sa Tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pade pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
Tani kani sapapani brahmahatyari kani sa Tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pade pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणं पदे पदे
Yani kani sapapani brahmahatyari kani sa Tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pade pade
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय
वृंदा देवी नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
नित्य गौर
हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय
प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
जय जय
गुरुदेव 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 जय
जय
जय गुरुदेव वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की
जय। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादेवी शतवताय नमः नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादेवी सतवताय नमः नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रादेवी सतवताय नमः नमः। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय। O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you, his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Vast within my vision, I would always behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavya damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki jai. Chetodarpanamajam Baba Mahadavagnivapanam Shri Akari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jevanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrat Pita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Itadrishi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Dhurdhaivam Idrishamiyajani Nanuragaha Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sada Hari न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितं भजगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरि भवताद्भक्तिरहितुकी त्वयि अयि नन्दतनुजकिङ्करं परितं मां विश्रमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कज स्थिता धूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गलरश्रुधारय वादनं गदगदरुद्धया गिरा पुलकाञ्चितं वपु कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमिषेण चक्षुषा प्रवृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत् सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे अश्लिष्यवापादरतं पिनस्तु माम् अदर्शनान्मर्महतं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पत मत्प्राणतस्तु सेवनापरः हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु श्री कृष्ण की जय। नमो महावरणाय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नमिने गौरत्वेषे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवीं गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिसतारिणे। Glory is to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays and the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names, O my Lord. Out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord and straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. Will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling old, vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and it should remain so, even if it sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotee, to dedicate the life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of Vedic diversion. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy name, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna, Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyevacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jayananta Koti Vaishnavrindi ki jai. Shri Guru Vandana Mangala ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jotapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunata Vintam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padayo Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaurvani Pracharine Nivrishesha Shunnavadi Pasyatya Rishatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhana Videvi Deitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambhanda Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhurjojala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravane Shimurthaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Pasidhantarantarine Namagora Kishoraya Sakchavera Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambhude Padabhujayate Nama Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchit Anandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Virbhava Mitsvam Nidisha Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhumasi Jagannatayate Nama Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnayo Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatattamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataro Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jayatam Suratopango Mama Mandamatir Gati Masarvasya Padambojo Radha Madanamohano Divyarvindaranya Kalpadumadha Shmara Nagara Shingasanastu Shmaradha Shila Govinda Devo Pristari Visivamana Shmarami Shmara Sarasaram Vivam Shvata Tatastita Karshan Venuswane Gopi Gopinata Shriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrusabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nishananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru
Ashiya Brahmasmita Kije Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiraja Govinda Sarvakara Nakaranam Chintamani Prakara Satmasukalpa Viksha Lakshar Mitesa Surabhira Vivaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambram Sevyamano Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Venam Kwananta Madhavenda Dalayataksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamayavam Siratnam Gadam Pranayakela Kalavilasam Shaman Tribanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Jangani Yashisakalendri Vritimanti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigraha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Advaitama Chutamanadi Mananta Rupa Madhyam Purana Purisham Navyovanamcha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Pantastakoti Satavatsada Sampragam Vayora Tapi Manasobri Mungam Anam Sopyastiyat Propalisim Yavichinti Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Kopya Sora Chaitam Jagadanda Koti Jas Chakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayadan Tandanta Rasta Paramana Chayanta Rasta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayanabusa Suktarya Maven Nigamai Pratitastavanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasapati Bhavita Vistabir Yevenichi Rupa Taya Kalabi Koloka Eveni Visata Kalatma Bhutto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochane Santaksa Deva Hidayasa Vilokante Yam Sham Sundaram Chintya Guna Swarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ramadi Murti Sukala Nimenitistam Nanabhatana Makarud Bhuvanesa Kinta Krishna Swayam Samabhavats Param Puramaya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yasri Prabhu Bhavara Jagrant Koti Kotis Vasesha Vasudari Vibhuti Pinam Tad Brahmanis Kalamanantam Sesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Sutani Sute Trigun Yatad Visaya Veda Vitaya Manam Sadva Volambi Parasatvam Visuddha Satvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Matayamana Surya Praninam Pratifilam Smartam Upetya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jaya Yirjaslam Goloka Namni Nichdamni Talecha Tasha Devi Mayesa Damasatesa Tete Prabhavani Chaya Vitascha Yena Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Sutista Tipalaya Sada Vasakti Reka Chaya Vyasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupa Pyasa Chitesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Siramnyata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritaka Sejo Yasambutama Pitata Samapaitika Yat Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Departure Vidya Santanam Abhipetya Dipayate Vidya Hita Samanadam Yastadra Gevi Hitcha Vishnu Tayavibati Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avlamya Parasam Wurtim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Yasyaka Nisvasita Kalamatavilam Shivanti Loma Villaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasikalavya Shesha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Basmanya Tasma Sakalesha Nijesha Teja Suyam Kiyat Pakatayata Pitadvatata Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Yatpada Palava Yugam Vinitaya Kumba Dwande Pranamastamaya Saganadi Raja Vignam Nihantan Malamashi Jagatraya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisas Chakalas Tatarva Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visantiyam Chagovinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Yaschak Suresa Savita Sagalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Asesha Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Samrita Kalachakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Dharmota Papa Nijaya Sutarasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagavata Yasta Jiva Hayadata Matra Vibhava Prakita Bhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yastrinda Gopamatavenda Mahosva Karma Vandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kintri Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajam Kroda Kama Saja Pranadi Bhiti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Saviya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sarvisuntana Mahapureti Sriya Kanta Kanta Paramapurusha Kapatarava Jumabu Mistinta Manigana Mayito Yaman Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasa Kichirilandam Jyoti Param Apitada Swatyam Apicha Sayatra Siradi Bhisa Videsirabi Vyasta Sumaya Nimesa Dakya Vavrajitinya Retapit Samayas Vajas Vitadi Ramtamaham Il Gola Kamitiam Vidantas Tesantak Srivirajara Kitipa Guru Vaska prayers keep Jaya. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the Goshen mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish itself. The spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence out from our respectful base until lotus feet. Such spiritual master, who's an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing next, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful base until lotus feet. Such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress their deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. Offer my respectful obeisance unto lotus feet is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is liquid, drunk, and stuck. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasadi, he is satisfied. Offer my respectful obeisance unto lotus feet is such spiritual. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastime, erotic and monogamy, and the qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master is stays at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto lotus feet is such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very eager to hear and chant. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting gopis who at different times make different tastes for arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto lotus feet is such spiritual master. The spiritual master to be honored as much the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all real scriptures and called by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto lotus feet is such spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, verse number 49. Yavat balim te jaharamakale yatal vayam chanam adama yatra yato baye samta ime hiloka balim haranto nanam adanti anuha. Yavat, as it may be, balim, offerings, te, your, aja, O unborn one, harama, shall offer, kale, at the right time, yata, as much as, vayam, we, cha, also, anam, food grains, adama, shall partake, yatra, whereupon, yata, as much as, ubayasam, both for you and for us, te, all, ime, these, he, certainly, loka, living entities, balim, offerings, haranta, while offering, anam, grains, adanti, eat, anuha, without disturbance. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O unborn one, please enlighten us regarding the ways and means by which we can offer you all enjoyable grains and commodities, so that both we and all other living entities in this world can maintain ourselves without disturbance and can easily accumulate the necessities of life, both for you and for ourselves. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Developed consciousness begins from the human form of life and further increases in the forms of the demigods living in higher planets. The earth is situated almost in the middle of the universe, and the human form of life is the via medium between the life of the demigods and that of the demons. The planetary systems above the earth are especially meant for the higher intellectuals called demigods. They are called demigods because although their standard of life is far more advanced in culture, enjoyment, luxury, beauty, education, and duration of life, they are always fully God conscious. Such demigods are always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord because they are perfectly aware of the fact that every living entity is constitutionally an eternal subordinate servitor of the Lord. They also know that it is the Lord only who can maintain all living entities with all necessities of life. The Vedic hymns, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kamam Ta Enam Abruvan Ayatanam Na Pranjanihi Yasman Pratistita Anam Adame, etc., confirm this truth. In Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord is mentioned as Bhuta Brit, or the maintainer of all living creatures. The modern theory that starvation is due to an increase in population is not accepted by the demigods or the devotees of the Lord. The devotees or demigods are fully aware that the Lord can maintain any number of living entities provided they are conscious of how to eat. If they want to eat like ordinary animals who have no God consciousness, then they must live in starvation, poverty, and want, like the jungle animals in the forest. The jungle animals are also maintained by the Lord with their respective foodstuffs, but they are not advanced in God consciousness. Similarly, human beings are provided with food grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk by the grace of the Lord, but it is the duty of human beings to acknowledge the mercy of the Lord. As a matter of gratitude, they should feel obliged to the Lord for their supply of foodstuff, and they must first offer him food in sacrifice and then partake of the remnants. In Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is confirmed that one who takes foodstuff after a performance of sacrifice eats real food for proper maintenance of the body and soul, but one who cooks for himself and does not perform any sacrifice eats only lumps of sin in the shape of foodstuffs. Such sinful eating can never make one happy or free from scarcity. Famine is not due to the increase in population, as less intelligent economists think. When human society is grateful to the Lord for all his gifts, for the maintenance of the living entities, then there is certainly no scarcity or want in society. But when men are unaware of the intrinsic value of such gifts from the Lord, surely they are in want. A person who has no God consciousness may live in opulence for the time being due to his past virtuous acts, but if one forgets his relationship with the Lord, certainly he must await the stage of starvation by the law of the powerful material nature. One cannot escape the vigilance of the powerful material nature unless he leads a God-conscious or devotional life. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O unborn one, please enlighten us regarding the ways and means by which we can offer. You all enjoyable grains and commodities, by which we can offer you all enjoyable grains and commodities, so that both we and all other living entities in this world can maintain ourselves without disturbance and can easily accommodate the necessities of life, both for you and for ourselves. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So in this verse, the miraculous saving grace of Krishna's prasadam is explained in depth, and it is definitely emphasizing the importance of offering food to the Lord, and then with sincere prayers and devotion, and then the Lord will offer it back as his prasadam, or his mercy. So therefore, Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is confirmed that one who takes foodstuff after a performance of sacrifice eats real food for proper maintenance of the body and soul. But one who cooks for himself and does not perform any sacrifice eats only lumps of sin in the shape of foodstuffs. Wow. Such sinful eating can never make one happy or free from scarcity. Famine is not due to an increase in population, as less intelligent economists think. That's Malthus, the less intelligent British economist. When human society is grateful to the Lord for his gifts, for the maintenance of the living entities, then there is certainly no scarcity or want in society. But when men are unaware of the intrinsic value of such gifts from the Lord, surely they are in want. A person who has no God consciousness may live in opulence for the time being, due to his past virtuous acts. But if one forgets his relationship with the Lord, certainly he must await the stage of starvation by the law of the powerful material nature. One cannot escape the vigilance of the powerful material nature unless one leads a God-conscious or devotional life. So this is an extremely important point. And someone will say, well, we have plenty of money, we can buy all the food we want. But when they get sick, so sick that they can't even eat. And then they begin to starve. And most people die of starvation and also dehydration because they become unaware of their needs by sickness, and they basically starve themselves to death, or they dehydrate themselves and they die. So, because one has plenty of money and can buy all the food they want, does not mean that they will not starve one day. When they get very sick, they will starve, and they won't have any appetite to eat, and eventually they die like that. So we have to not have this concept of being above the law of nature. The law of nature is someone is born, they grow, they stay, they give off byproducts or children, they dwindle, and they die. It's the law of nature. No one can escape it. So therefore, everyone is at one point going to starve and going to be dehydrated, etc. And it's because basically they are not offering their food to Krishna first, and food that Krishna will accept, and they have no real love or devotion for the Lord. Now, there's a very stark example of this. And the name of that example is Einstein. Einstein did not believe in a personal God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings. Okay, there's a lot of things he didn't accept about God, and there's some things that he did accept about God. And we're going to hear about this because this shows how not accepting real knowledge of God leads to self-destruction. And Einstein was eventually, he self-destructed himself. So the first point he's making here, he makes a lot of different points about God. But this point is very significant to discuss. And he says, he did not believe in a personal God who concerns himself with the fates and actions of human beings. This is in contravention of what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. First of all, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, there is no, in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 14th verse, there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Okay. So, if we consider Krishna an ordinary person who is, like us, conditioned by the three modes of material nature, limited by time, and suffers birth, death, old age, and disease, then we will not make any spiritual advancement, no matter how much we study books or whatever. And Krishna is not like us. He doesn't have to achieve anything because he is already perfect in every way. So one who understands this truth about Krishna also does not become entangled in the fruitive actions of work. So what does that mean exactly? So it means that although Krishna is the creator of this material world, he is not affected by the activities of the material world. He creates and remains aloof from the creation, whereas the living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities because of their propensity for lording it over material resources. So that's an important point. And what are we trying to learn in these classes? We're learning not to be affected by the ups and downs of the material world because they're temporary, they're not eternal. Therefore, because they're not eternal, they are considered asat. And so the devotee only concerns himself with what is sat, what is eternally existent. So the body is not eternal, so it's asat. The soul is eternal, so that is sat. So the devotee will maintain the body minimally so that he or she has time to pursue their relationship with Krishna. So maintaining the body minimally doesn't mean you starve yourself. It means that you don't overeat and you don't undereat. You don't exert yourself. You don't underexert yourself. You don't have excessive sex, but it doesn't mean you have no sex. There is such a thing as divine sexual act according to the principles of religion. So we don't go overemphasizing something. We don't underemphasize something. We live this balanced life. So therefore, it says in another verse that Name Partas Tikartavyam, this is Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 22nd verse. Krishna says, "There is no work prescribed for me within all the 3 planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties." So, Einstein's idea, misconception, that he did not believe in a personal God who concerns himself with faiths and actions. Well, Krishna has nothing to do, nothing to achieve, but yet he is engaged in prescribed duties. So what does that mean exactly? That means that he accepts certain responsibilities. And what are they? So he explains this in 3rd chapter, 23rd verse. "For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Arjuna, certainly all men would follow my path." So the purpose, in order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, there are traditional family usages meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules, otherwise common men would follow in his footsteps, because he is the greatest authority. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home as required of a householder. So now we're beginning to get to the real point. Einstein does not believe in a personal God, point one. And he definitely doesn't believe that a personal God concerns himself with faiths and actions of human beings. Wait a minute, that's contradicting what he just said in the 3rd chapter, 23rd verse. Then, again, in the 3rd chapter, 24th verse, "If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings." So, now we're beginning to see how much Krishna concerns himself with the fates and actions of living entities. Although he's aloof from everything that happens in the material world, still he's very concerned to help people be Krishna conscious. So this is difficult for non-devotees to understand, but devotees can understand this. He's not affected by anything that happens in the material world. He's aloof from it. But yet, he's very much concerned about his devotees in the material world. And then it says, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 10th chapter, 36th verse. On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening, in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset. In the purport, Prabhupada says, it is said here that the Lord observed the religious principles regularly while he was on the journey. There are certain philosophical speculations that even the Lord is under obligations of fruitive action, but actually this is not the case. He does not depend on the action of any good or bad work. Since the Lord is absolute, everything done by him is good for everyone. But when he descends on earth, he acts for the protection of the devotees and for the annihilation of the impious non-devotees. Although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. That is the way of factual teaching. So he gives a practical example. So therefore, teach me, I'll forget very quickly. Right? Tell me, and I'll forget very quickly. Teach me, I might learn something. Engage me, I'll never forget. So the Lord is coming and engaging those people who are devotees in service by his example. And he's also engaging the demons in war so that they will kill each other, right? Both things are perfect. It's not that the war and evil is bad. It's part of the Lord's plan. So what does that mean? We're going to hear it now. So he says, although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. That is the way of factual teaching. One must act properly himself and teach the same to others. Otherwise, no one will accept one's blind teaching. He is himself the awarder of fruitive results. He, and this is talking about Krishna, is self-sufficient, and yet he acts according to the rulings of the revealed scripture in order to teach us the process. If he does not do so, the common man may go wrong. But in the advanced stage, when one can understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, one does not try to imitate him. This is not possible. Whoa, there's a lot of points here that... So, first of all, Einstein is being debunked by Bhagavad Gita. It's his theory that God is not a person, and he's definitely not a person who concerns himself with the faiths and actions of human beings. That is extreme. That is very, very wrong statement that he's making. So, the Lord in human society does what is the duty of everyone, but sometimes he does something extraordinary and not to be imitated by the living being. His acts of evening prayer, as stated herein, must be followed by the living being, but it is not possible to follow his mountain lifting, meaning lifting up Govardhan, Parvat, or dancing with the gopis. One cannot imitate the sun, which can exhaust water even from a filthy place. The most powerful can do something which is all good, but our imitation of such acts will put us into endless difficulty. Therefore, in all actions, the experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord, should always be consulted, and the path of progress will be assured. So there are things that we cannot emulate that Krishna does, but there are other things that we should strictly follow by his example. So then, Narada Muni says, "My dear Lord, this kind of behavior by your lordship is not at all astonishing, for you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and master of all species of living entities. You are the supreme friend of all living entities, but at the same time, you are the supreme chastiser of the miscreants and the envious. I know that your lordship has descended to this earth for the proper maintenance of the whole universe. Your appearance, therefore, is not forced by any other agency. By your sweet will only, you agree to appear and disappear. It is my great fortune that I have been able to see your lotus feet today. Anyone who becomes attached to your lotus feet is elevated to the supreme position of neutrality and is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. Whoa. What does he mean by neutrality? That means that he sees that everybody, whether it's a devotee or the demon, has a relationship with Krishna. Right? And that he is not prejudiced to one or the other, but he reciprocates according to their relationship to him. So he reciprocates with the devotee because of the goodness of the devotee, and he reciprocates with the demon because of the evilness of the demon. So for the devotee, he will protect the devotee, and for the demon, he will kill the demons. Right? Both are acts of goodness of the Lord. If you're killed by Krishna, you are benefited. This position of neutrality means that one is not affected by anything that happens in the material world, whether it's good or bad. One remains equal. What does that mean? Equally engaged in devotional service. Nothing will obstruct the devotee from engaging in devotional service. And if you cannot perform it physically because you're tied up or in jail or something like that, then you can do it mentally. So no one can actually stop the devotee from engaging in devotional service. Anyone who becomes attached to your lotus feet is elevated to the supreme position of neutrality and is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. My Lord, you are unlimited. There is no limit to your opulences. Great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are always busy placing you within their hearts and meditating upon you. The conditioned souls who have now been put into the blind well of material existence can get out of this eternal captivity only by accepting your lotus feet. Thus, you are the only shelter of all conditioned souls. My dear Lord, you have very kindly asked what you can do for me. In answer to this, I simply request that I may not forget your lotus feet at any time. I do not care where I may be, but I pray that I constantly be allowed to remember your lotus feet. By asking this benediction from the Lord, the sage Narada showed the ideal prayer of pure devotees. A pure devotee never asks for any kind of material or spiritual benediction from the Lord. His only prayer is that he may not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. So therefore, whatever happens in the material world, doesn't affect the devotee because he continues his devotional service one way or the other. Right? And his only desire is that he never forget Krishna. This is unique. This is different. And we can see how Krishna does get involved in the life of people to try and help them in one way or other come to Krishna consciousness. So his killing is good and his blessing is good. Both are good. And he reciprocates according to the actions or desires of the person. So it says here, a pure devotee does not care whether he is put into heaven or hell. He is satisfied anywhere, provided he can constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya taught the same process of prayer in his Siksastakam, in which he clearly stated that all he wanted was devotional service birth after birth. See? A pure devotee does not even want to stop the repetition of birth and death. To a pure devotee, it does not matter whether he has to take birth again in the various species of life. His only ambition is that he not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. Okay. Now, Krishna also continues, 5th chapter, 15th verse. He says, nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So, Krishna is always satisfied in himself and is undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. So, now we come to a second point that Einstein got wrong. He says, one second. Yeah, he did not believe. Well, as the first point, he did not believe that God gets involved in the affairs of people, and he did not believe that there's such a thing as God giving benedictions or God punishing people, right? But yet, it's a fact that God does bless people with benedictions, and he does punish people who are miscreants. So there's another thing that he got completely wrong, right? And why? Because he does not believe that God is a person. And he says, in 1947, in a letter, he stated, "It seems to me that the idea of a personal God is an anthropological concept which I cannot take seriously." So that means it's a projection of us, living entities, projecting our individuality and attributing it also to God. And that's called anthropomorphic. In other words, because we are persons, therefore we assume that God is a person. Right? But it's the opposite. Because God is a person, we are also persons, you see. So this anthropomorphic idea is another speculation of the scientists, and especially the anthropologists. They are always talking about anthropomorphic qualities of God, which are projections of a person's individuality. Therefore, he believes that God is an individual. But it's the opposite, because Krishna is a person, we are also persons, right? So, therefore, he says, I cannot take belief in God as a person seriously. Then in another letter in 1952, he wrote, "The idea of a personal God is quite alien to me and seems even naive." So here's the smartest guy in the world who's the dumbest person spiritually, right? And morally also. He was also a philanderer. He cheated on his first wife, and he did more cheating in his life with women. So, so now going even further, in the 5th chapter, 15th verse, it says that Krishna does not create a particular situation for any living being, but the living entities, bewildered by ignorance, desire to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby the chain of action and reaction begins. So, Einstein did not believe in the law of karma, that there are actions and reactions, and it's a law established by God of blessings and punishment. It says, a living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu, or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord, and so when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires but the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. Therefore, desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. So the Lord fulfills the living entity's desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. In other words, even if you want to engage in sinful activity, you have to have the help of God. So we are not independent. We are always dependent on Krishna. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. So for the devotee, the Lord is protective, and he gives knowledge to the devotee who is engaged in acts of devotion to the Lord. So he is involved in the life of living entities. He is always trying to encourage them to be Krishna conscious. And when they show some feelings for the Lord, he reciprocates. Einstein rejects all this. See? He says he rejects the whole thing. Okay. So then, going even further, in the 9th chapter, 29th verse, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I don't envy anyone, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So, the person may ask a question, if the Lord is equal to everyone, and no one is a special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees, who are always engaged in his transcendental service? Prabhupada says, this is not discrimination. It is natural. Just like if there was a fire, and let's say your daughter or your son goes to an overnighter at the neighbor's house, right, with other kids, and that house is set on fire, and the fire engines are coming, and you find out. So when you run to the house and you see it on fire, obviously you're going to try and run into the house. So who are you going to save first, the neighbor's daughter or your daughter? Or the neighbor's son or your son? Who would you serve? Would you do the neighbor's kids first and then your daughter or your kid? Or would you do your kid first and then the neighbor's kids if you had the opportunity? Huh? Of course. So that's why he's saying this is natural, that he be very protective of his devotee, right? He's not being prejudiced. So it says, but this is not discrimination. It is natural. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son, and so he provides everyone with generous supply of necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on a rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives special attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendentally situated in Krishna. The very phrase Krishna consciousness suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists situated in him, in Krishna. The Lord says here distinctly, Maite, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is reciprocal. This is what Einstein rejected, this a reciprocal relationship with people. He had no idea of God and his relationship with living entities. This also explains the words, Ye itamam papadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionately to their surrender, I take care of them. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotees are conscious. Okay, so not only that, the living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme and the living entity. But in the personalist philosophy, there is. So this shows that at the most, Einstein was an impersonalist. He was taking the first baby steps to understand God, but they were really baby steps. So he was not that smart. So devotional service to the Lord, however, is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. Then next it goes further. First Canto, 7th chapter, 25th verse. It says, "Thus you descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. It appears," in the purport Prabhupada says, "it appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees. Everyone is related with the Lord. He is equal to everyone, and yet he is more inclined to his own men and devotees. The Lord is everyone's father. No one can be his father, and yet no one can be his son. His devotees are his kinsmen, and his devotees are his relations. This is his transcendental pastime. It has nothing to do with mundane ideas of relations, fatherhood, or anything like that. As mentioned above, the Lord is above the modes of material nature, and thus there is nothing mundane about his kinsmen and his relations in devotional service." So here we see the Lord's relationship with his devotees is not material. It's on the spiritual plane of eternal, let's say, reciprocation of love. So Einstein is rejecting this whole idea of there's some reciprocation or some give and take. There's blessings and punishment. He rejects the whole idea. Therefore, whatever knowledge he has, it's very, very piecemeal and very incomplete. Then the first canto, 9th chapter, 22nd verse. "Yet despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor." So this is Bhisma Pitamaha. So Lord Krishna, although he's equal to everyone, is still more inclined to his unflinching devotee who is completely surrendered and knows no one else as his protector and master. Having unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord as one's protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy when placing himself in a condition of absolute dependence. The opposite tendency is the cause of fall down. I am independent. To think I am independent, it's a formula for falling down. The living entity has this tendency of falling down by dint of misidentifying himself as fully independent to lord it over the material world. The root cause of all troubles is there in false ego. One must draw towards the Lord in all circumstances. But Bhisma has no such bodily relation. Therefore, the cause of attraction of Bhisma to the Lord is due to his intimate relation of the soul. Yet because the relation of the body is very pleasing and natural, the Lord is more pleased when he is addressed as the son of Maharaj Nanda, the son of Yasoda, the lover of Radharani. This affinity by bodily relation with the Lord is another feature of reciprocating loving service with the Lord. Bhisma is conscious of the sweetness of transcendental humor, and therefore he likes to address the Lord as Vijaya Sake, Partha Sake, etc., exactly like Nanda Nandana or Yasoda Nandana. The best way to establish our relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach Krishna through his recognized devotees. One should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a medium which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. In other words, there must be some bona fide spiritual master to help us. Okay, so this is only one point. I'm going to talk about this a couple days now because it's very interesting to see how Prabhupada can defeat even the greatest intelligent person in the world, and to show that very high intelligent person to be really not very smart at all. Hari Bol. So are there any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is regarding again the point where like Krishna or God is not biased, like somebody can argue, right? But we say that okay, he's more inclined to the devotees. It's kind of little bit still biasness, Maharaj, right? I mean, if, and the example you gave, which is kind of a sun is like in the fire, so we can call it as like we're still identifying it as bodily level. Is mind.
What?
The example you gave, right?
I understand. What did you, the last
So we are
thing-
identifying that person at the bodily level, his
Yes.
mind. But if you are at the soul level, you probably he is your son at this time, but maybe not next time after
No, but
rebirth. He probably somebody else's
Everything
son.
that exists in the material world is perverted in the material world. And everything exists in the spiritual world is perverted in the material world. So there is a bodily concept in the spiritual world, but it's the spiritual body, not the material body. So Lord is attracted to the body of Radharani, but not for sense gratification. But he's pleased by her body.
So
and
that
the way
concept
she
is
does.
still there, Maharaj, like it's mine.
What?
That concept is still valid, like something is mine. Like when we say something is, this is my phone, or this is my son, or my child. So
Yeah, but
that,
Krishna is the proprietor of everything. Everything
so
belongs to
everybody is his sons on at the end of the day, right?
You belong to Krishna. I belong.
Yes.
Your body also belongs to Krishna. It's made out of his energies. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Nothing belongs to you. Nothing belongs to me. It all belongs to Krishna. You see, so he can act through your body if he wants to. If you're surrendered to him. So, I mean, how is it possible that Arjuna was able to defeat the Kauravas? They were vastly more qualified to win that war. They outnumbered Arjuna's army, or the Pandavas' army. They had greater fighters on their side. But Krishna protected his devotee. And basically, he enabled his devotee to do something impossible, which was to defeat Bhisma Pitama, to defeat Karna, to defeat all these people. So, yeah, there is a bodily relationship, but not the material body, the spiritual body.
But my point is not. My point is like why it is wrong to say that he is biased. He is
We didn't
more
say
inclined towards.
no, we didn't say it's wrong to say it. Okay, you have to hear this. One second. Well, anyway, we'll discuss this tomorrow. It's coming. It's going to be discussed next by Prabhupada himself.
So Maharaj, I think it's probably linked to the fact that what do we say when, what do we mean when we say the Lord is also a person? Right? I mean, we as persons inherit the personality from the Lord as the part and parcel of him. So
Well,
if the
what does
Lord
it
doesn't
mean?
have
What does it mean? He has emotions.
exactly,
He has preferences.
exactly.
He has likes and dislikes.
Dislikes. So because that's what Bhagavad Gita is telling. So if the Mayavad or the impersonal,
They want to eliminate all that.
Yeah, exactly. They want to get rid of it so that you can get what you want rather than give what.
So you can be God in a sense.
Yeah.
you know,
So I think that's
but
the,
an
that's the
impersonal
fundamental
God.
distinction.
The point is my gist of the question is that I think it's okay to say Krishna is biased towards the devotee.
In the sense, what Lord is saying is,
Deny that a lot of time, right? Like
no, no,
that's
Krishna
my
himself is saying,
interpretation.
no, no, Krishna himself is saying that I am neutral to everyone, but, you know,
So that not but. If you say come but, it's
No,
not
no,
going.
no. You have to understand something. Krishna is maintaining everyone
exactly.
equally, right? So you might have a neighbor who's a big demon, but he's eating every day. He has nice car, has nice house, has nice wife, has
Yeah.
kids, right? So Krishna is equal to everyone, but he's especially concerned with his devotee. It's natural. Like you're equal to other people. Like your daughter may have friends, other daughters of other people, and you're kind to them all. But you have a special interest in your daughter. It's natural, isn't it?
Yeah, it's natural, but I'm saying biased.
So you're
like,
trying to
if
use
I'm
the word
trying to
definition.
save my kid, that means I'm biased. Or why didn't I save other kids first? I'm saving because I'm a little bit biased towards my son.
But
I
it's
have
natural.
special
It's
inclination.
natural. It's not
Yeah,
an
I understand.
artificial thing.
Correct, but that's my point is
the word definition.
See, if you were not a person, then you wouldn't care. Your kid, other kids, but you're a person, and your child is a person.
Similarly, devotees, they have, like, nobody is like a born devotee or anything, right? They have to make an effort. So Krishna sees that effort. The demon doesn't make an effort to get associated with the Lord. So Krishna sees the effort and then accordingly he says, okay, you are not special to me because you have made that effort.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Everything is true. I'm saying it is natural, right? So we just say yes, it is natural, and then Krishna naturally it's fine.
but he's maintaining everybody else also.
Basic stuff is being taken care
Yeah.
of.
And when a person has, let's say, false ego, they begin to make mistakes in their life. And those mistakes are not the fault of Krishna. Those mistakes are due to the illusory false ego that makes people act in strange ways. And then some of them become complete demons where they reject the existence of God as a person. Now, Albert Einstein was not a complete demon, but he was demoniac. He ate meat, and he also philandered with women, and he's the godfather of the atomic bomb, which killed many, many people. You see, so he made mistakes in his life because he could not accept that God is a person.
I think another, probably somewhere, Maharaj, even Prabhupada gives the example, not even like neighbor's son versus my son. Even within a family, within the two kids, if there is a favorite, if the child is reciprocating more love, then there is a natural attraction to that child. Because that's what the definition of love is. Otherwise, there is no point of love also.
Okay.
No, I think you're
My
stuck
point
on the
is not
definition
that
of the
it's
term.
natural. I accepted that it's natural. But I'm saying, yeah, we should not say that.
No,
not
it's
biased.
something
It is
that
biased.
you would
We
do.
accept the fact.
It's something that you would do naturally.
Yeah. But then, yeah, it happens.
You would
naturally,
run
so
into
we
that
accept it,
house.
right, Maharaj?
You would run even into the flames looking for your daughter first.
Correct. So
So
that's
you're saying
natural.
like, why not we explicitly say that Krishna is naturally attracted or more?
Well, that's what it says. Prabhupada says it's natural that he has a special, let's say, interest in his devotees. And when he says, Pratyanaya sadhanam vinasaya chatuskratam, he comes to protect the devotees, annihilate the demons, and reestablish the principles of religion. So his purpose is to protect the devotees. He's inclined toward the devotees, and it's natural. We'll discuss this more tomorrow. This is interesting. Here's the smartest guy in the world, and he's very, very ignorant. And it's not all his fault. It's not all his fault. We'll understand why, what influenced him to believe that God is not a person. It's very interesting. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We should be happy that Krishna is very inclined towards its devotees.
That's my point. Like, okay, if somebody is saying that if he biased, yes, fine, he's biased. Why don't you start serving Krishna? Then you will be also favorite, right? So that's how we
Well,
should
that's
do it.
that's the point.
That's my
Yeah.
point actually.
Yeah.
I think we should accept that yes, he is biased. He is towards devotee. So
But
if you
say,
want,
no,
you
but
can also
no,
decide.
this is going to get more complicated. His killing the demons is also good. We're going to get to that. and this is something that Einstein would go crazy over. You know what? You know, then God is a demon. He's killing. You know, Haribol.
Sri Guru Charana Padma Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Mandamoi Savadana Mate
Mandomui Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Doriya Jai
Janar Prasade Mai He Bhavadoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jahan Hoy De Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte De Goriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Goriya
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Sri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Sa
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
He Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
Chakshudam dilo jai janme janme prabhu se
Chakshudana Dil Jai Janmi Janmi Prabhu Se
Chakshudam dilo jai janme janme prabhu se
Chakshudan Dila Jai Janmi Janmi Prabhu Se
Divya jnan hruday prakashito
Divya Gyan De Prakastito
Prema भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेद गाय जहाँ चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधमा जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदन जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधमा जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदन जनर बंधु
लोकनाथ लोके राजीवाना
रे गाय
प्रभु गुरु दोया देहो मोरे पदा छाया
प्रभु को हृदय देह मोरे पदचय
प्रभु गुरु दोया देहो मोरे पदा छाया
प्रभु को हृदय देह मोरे पदचय
के बेजास गुण सुक्रिवाना
हे बेयास कुशक्ति भुवाना
प्रभु पाद पतित पवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा
Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prajarine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pasyadyade Satarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Vaskadyade Satarine
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajagachasta Tarasatara Shri Shimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Shri Goho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanand. All glories to Simple Devotee, all glories to Simple Devotees, all glories to Simple Devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhuti Smata Bhaktana Smanta. Namaste Saraswati Devi. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can cross over the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic Brahma emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures signify Our spiritual master, host of mercy, friend of the poor, Lord of the master and the devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful to us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of lotus feet. So Prabhupada ki jai.